y'all, and welcome to Playing with Possibilities. I am Cecile, joined by my friends Christine and Ade. Y'all, look, Ade is back. Y'all know he's been missing in action for a little while. He's back, y'all. And together we talk about everything from spirituality to social justice, from being human and connecting with our ancestors, how the things we do create our reality, and how we can intentionally create our collective reality together. My name is Cecile Armstrong. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Black woman and an embodied equity consultant. I am streaming live today from the unceded land of the Kickatan, colonized as Newport News, Virginia. I am an Amazon best-selling author along with Christine and some other fantastic women colleagues, one of whom you will meet today. I'm the founder of Inspired by Indigo, an online membership community where I guide folks to make social equity a habit with self-care and joy. Every month we go through 4 steps together, and y'all know I'm always not getting my banners quite right. There you go. All right, so every month we go through 4 steps together. And the first one is self-care, because healing is a form of protest and listening to your body makes everything else easier. Every month I introduce a new self-care technique for members to try. The second step is to know your facts. This can be hard with so much misinformation out there, but in the membership, I do the work for you and I provide it to you with documentation, and we can discuss it at my monthly Ask Me Anythings. Step 3 is to undo the work. That's taking what you've learned and then getting out of your comfort zone to make a difference in the world. And then the final step that a lot of people like to skip, and I remind you to do, is to rest and rejoice. Give your body, mind, and soul a chance to recover from all that adrenaline and acknowledge your wins, even if the only thing that went right was that you tried. To find out more, you can check out links in the description. If you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, please follow. If you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe and then click the bell to get notifications when we go live. And now I don't know if I should let Ade go because he's
No,
here,
Christine.
or if
Christine.
Christine should go, we should make him go last because he's been gone for so long.
Well, I heard the best is always safe to the last anyway, but hey, I'm just saying. I already said Christine could go, but hey.
We have missed you, my friend. Hi, y'all.
That's loaded.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and published best-selling author and dancing social worker who is the co-host and co-founder of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast and community, where we support you in getting rooted and thriving in the 8 dimensions of wellness. And I'm so delighted that we're all back together. I'm so delighted. So I'm passing to you, my friend.
Yes. It's so good to be here. Go ahead, Cecile.
No, I was just like, that thing is still scrolling. I was just taking it down.
Oh, you were
Y'all
thinking out loud.
Y'all know me with the banners. Okay.
My name is Ade Anifowose. I'm a spiritual healer, teacher, mindset coach, sacred drummer, and all good things that return people back to themselves. I'm around all these authors. I think energetically they inspired me. My first book is going to be published in December 10th. I'm working on it right now. I got the book cover. Boy, that baby has been waiting to come out. So I'm excited about it. I am excited. My work really is about really helping people to stand in the truth of who they are. And my mission is really to create a world of freedom where people are affirmed, accepted for who they are, and simply for me by being in joyful service. So wherever I show up, people are set free just because it is my mission, it is my intention. And I'm looking forward to this conversation. And you can find out more about me by going to my website, lifecoachade.com, lifecoachade.com.
And the link is in the description.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I knew that. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Okay.
Cut me some slack. I can't even remember how to get into it. Like, hello. They said, no, click the link. I'm like, I'm knocking. Click the link. It's not a real studio. It's a virtual studio. Oh, yes. I forgot.
So today, y'all, I am so excited. We have a guest. We were pointing out that this is our first guest since the 3 of us started together. And when was that? Was that almost a year ago?
Yeah.
It was like February.
February.
Yeah, that was like Yeah, February. So, anyway, we actually have a guest today. Her name is Melody LeBaron. She is one of the co-authors with Christine and myself on the Women Connected in Wisdom book. Melody began her career as a professional organizer, a space clearing practitioner, and feng shui. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Expert, helping clients create optimally functioning and beautiful spaces for their lives and work. And then 30 years ago, Melody was also asked to use her skills to create sacred space for the dying and the grieving. Melody believes that how our homes, workspaces, and relationships currently function and feel is often a perfect reflection of the past and can always be upleveled by releasing judgment and applying compassion and skill. She named her business Transforming Space plus Self plus Loss because she believes you can't do one without the others happening. When we uplevel aspects of our lives, our homes and workspaces often get spruced up as well. Often, when we really need to make a big change in our life, the easiest way to start is to create more order, beauty, and spaciousness in our environment. And every kind of loss, when metabolized, is a portal to potential growth, which is always then reflected in our lives and our homes. So, thank you, Melody, for showing up today. I am looking forward to this conversation about environmental wellness.
Well, me too. And thank you. Thank the three of you for inviting me into this conversation. It's wonderful to meet you a day. It's good to see you again, Christine and Cecile.
Thank you. So, for the people the few people out there who have not purchased our book, it's it's called.
What?
Excuse me.
Why are you waving your hand? What is happening over there?
Miss, can we take a deep whiff before we get
Oh,
going?
yes, we can. Yes, we can. You know what? I was thinking to myself, we're going to take a breath when I bring Melody on, and then totally skipped over it. So, before we get started, let's take a breath. All right, y'all, let's sit up straight so we give our bellies room to expand. Check in with your jaw. If you're feeling any tension, wiggle it out. Notice where your shoulders are. If they're up by your ears, let them drop down. And then let your belly go like nobody's looking. If they're looking, just let them look. Relax your tummy. And then take a deep belly breath. And then let it go at your own pace. And then let's do one more. Take a deep belly breath and just let your belly expand like nobody's looking. And then with this exhale, wiggle it out. Shake your body, move around, make noise if you want to. Whew. All right. Thank you for that reminder, Ade. I was just going to jump
You're
right
very
in.
welcome.
All right. So I am so excited to talk to Melody because I am in need of some environmental wellness in my space right now. And like I was saying, if you are one of the few people who has not purchased the book, it is called Women Connected in Wisdom. And what's the subtitle?
Stories and resources rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness.
Yes. And so today we are talking about environmental wellness. And I know the first time I heard the term environmental wellness, I was automatically thinking climate change. And then I heard Melody speak on it and was like, oh, you know, the space around us, the space that we live in, that does count as environment. And it does count as environmental wellness when we do things to make ourselves comfortable. And so I am so excited for Melody to speak on this. So do you want to talk a little bit about, I guess, how you got to this and calling it environmental wellness as opposed to talking about like climate change?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I'm going to do here with with this little group, and I would just ask that anyone listening or watching ask these questions of themselves. But let's give a show of hands as I ask the question.
Oh, boy. This gets me in trouble every time.
I got my elbows greased already. Go ahead.
Ready? Let me warm up.
So I'm just wondering if the four of us were out walking in the woods and just, appreciating this beautiful day. And I were to ask you the question, do you believe that nature is alive? Raise your hand if you would say yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so if I were to then ask the question, do you believe that nature is intelligent?
Mhm.
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 Yeah. And if I would then ask, do you believe, as we walk through the woods here, that nature is aware of us? What would you tell
Mhm.
me?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Now, I have been teaching this class for about 30 years. And usually, 30 years ago, most people were like, yeah, nature is it is alive. But the other two questions, they were unsure, right?
Mm.
Now I'm going to ask us to consider that when a home is constructed, we have then enclosed nature. We have enclosed that aliveness, that intelligence, that if you or I had grown up in any indigenous culture around the world, we would have understood from birth that the space inside the dwelling, the space inside the home, the workplace, the shop, is still alive, intelligent, and aware of us. So just because we've enclosed the space doesn't mean that the aliveness is gone. Except that for most Westerners, what we have been trained from birth to do is when we move into a new space, we might change the color of the walls. We might even put down some new rugs or new flooring. We bring in our furniture, we hang our art, and then the space becomes dead to us. There's no more real interaction other than imposing our wishes on the space, our preferences. There's no other real interaction with that space. It just becomes flat, one dimensional, a thing. And so, my job, the beginning of my work, is really to have people understand that your home and your workspace is alive, it's intelligent, it's aware of your presence, and it wants to partner with you. Yeah. Yeah.
I got to say something. So this whole thing about environmental, did you say environmental justice, environmental
Oh,
wellness?
yes.
I did go to global warming and everything, but I also got a chance to read your bio, and I thought, yeah, because yesterday actually doing my spiritual practice, one of the guidance was to clear some things out in the house that are just piling up because I think I was going to use it. And while Cecile was introducing you, I grabbed some of the things. So I have a billion of these things with the top to go on it. I feel so bad. My sister cooks sometimes, she put foods in it, and I'm like, I can use it, but there's so many of them. And yesterday I said, no, I'm getting rid of them. And so I put them in a bag to get rid of them. And then the other thing is when you talked about our spaces being intelligent and aware of us, there is a part of it that kind of know it, but I feel like I just had a mind-blowing realization. Like that's true because I always feel like I make my space alive when I buy a flower. Normally, I don't think, oh, my space is intelligent. I know there's energy in here, but not like I was when you were asking us about nature. So I often feel like I have to go in nature to experience the aliveness,
Right.
and then I bring myself in. So, thank you. I'm sold. Keep going.
So then we want to take the relationship. So people are always surprised when I refer to them as being in a relationship with their home
Mm.
and with the land on which they live.
Mhm.
And but let's think about this for just a minute, right? When you walk in the door of your home, the energy that's there, the items
Yeah.
that are there are either raising your mood and energy
Yes.
level or lowering your mood and energy level. And
Mhm.
that's one of the ways we know it's a relationship. It
Yes.
has the ability to
Yes.
affect us,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
So when you're in any kind of,
Mm.
and you know, I like to think of every time I move into a new home, it's kind of like taking a new lover. You have to learn where the light switches are in the dark, right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, you know, and we move into a home hopefully because we've fallen in love with something about it. We liked something about it, right? The same way as when we, you know, are in a new relationship with a beloved. And then we've lived there for a week or two and we begin to notice the less optimal things
Mm,
about it. You know,
mm,
maybe that closet really is too small, or maybe the color of that room is just jarring to your nerves.
mm,
So when we're in a relationship, if you can think of yourself as being in a relationship with a beloved, rather than just going into disappointment or judgment, we might handle it. If we're mature, we might handle it in a different way. Hopefully we would. And so, and so I see one of the things I love doing, especially with people who have clutter. I see my
Wait,
job. What was that, Christine?
I was like, oh, my hand probably should go up at that point. Sorry.
Well, in a minute, we're going to define clutter, but I see my job as helping people develop a new and improved, more mature relationship with their homes and the land, right? A more expansive one that is more of a partnership, one that will restore our indigeneity. There's a beautiful TED talk by First Nations elder Jeanette Armstrong, in which she talks about all of us, whatever our ancestry, must restore our indigeneity to the land on which we are currently living.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just mean like sinking our attention and awareness into the land with love. That means actually, what can we do to care for the land?
Yes.
So the first thing is to understand that our homes, our workspaces are alive, intelligent, and want to partner with us. And the next step is to really understand we are in a relationship with those spaces and the land on which they sit. And then we want to look at our partnership. And so I know the three of us all know this, but it's kind of fun to think about when you're in a relationship with someone, whether that's a beloved or a parent or a child or a friend, and you are irritated or bothered or frustrated by something that they are doing. What are you responsible for? What side of the street are you responsible for in that relationship?
Mine.
Mhm.
My state of mind. Yes.
Exactly, exactly,
Mm,
exactly. And so when we begin to treat our spaces with more respect,
mm,
and when we really recognize this is a partnership, and we then have the capacity to, when we are aware of something that is not as we would prefer, we have the relationship, we have the opportunity to do it differently,
mhm,
to do it more
mhm,
maturely. So
mhm,
if anyone who is listening, it has clutter, and let's define clutter because I love the definition. The word clutter comes from the Old English word cloiter, which literally tells you what clutter does. The word cloiter means to coagulate. So I want you to imagine the window is open and a breeze of fresh air is blowing into your room. And ideally, that fresh air, that chi is going to flow around the space. It's going to curve around. And when it finds your favorite books, your favorite art, your favorite textures and colors, that's actually going to add a little bit of, excitement to the chi, to the life force. But if that life force that's flowing in on the breeze meets piles and stacks of items that are unused and unloved or unrepaired, that chi, that life force is going to slow down, and it might even stop. So then what do we do? What do we do then? Well, I'm going to tell myself because in my teens, I'm the oldest of 7 children, and we moved 7 times before I went off to college at age 17. So I had lots of experience packing and unpacking and organizing, and I loved it. And so,
Melody, was it lots of experience, a lot of lovers? Because you say we treat the house like it's a lover. Just asking.
exactly. Well, and the other thing I will tell you about all that moving around, because we move so often, the only time I've ever experienced being home, which I only lived 1 year out of my life, was every summer, or that 1 year when I was between 4 and 5 years old. And then later, every other summer, we would go back to my parents' home, which was 2 little farming communities in southern Alberta, Canada. So this was home. So the Rocky Mountains that we would visit and play in, and the prairies, this was home. But because I had that, I think because of those mountain spirits, I have always had a sensitivity to the energy of the land. And because we moved, and sometimes we were near sand dunes, and sometimes we were, I've had a vast spiritual geography. I've moved 30 times around the US and Canada. And so I recognized early on in my childhood that the land had different gifts to offer us children. We played in a different way in every area. Some had creeks to play in, some had woods, but I also recognized that some of the homes we moved into, inside the home, I could still feel the hum or the pulse of the land outside that I had just come in from playing. And in other homes, it felt so stagnant and so stuck that all I could feel was that tension. So fast forward. So when I was a teenager, so I was always tasked from the age of about 7 with babysitting my younger siblings. And I took a babysitting course at the age of 9. And by the age of 12, I was allowed to babysit for other people's children and actually make money. And it was so exciting. And because we didn't have a television at home, I wasn't used to watching TV. So when I would put the children to bed, I would wander into the kitchen and alphabetize the spices or the canned goods and just like tidy up the pantry. And I would show the mothers when they got home, and they were like, "Oh, are you available next Saturday?" Like I was booked up years out for, as a babysitter. And then I became a mother's helper, and part of that was just organizing. So I just loved this process of helping turn a cluttered room into an organized one. And my motto at that time was a place for everything and everything in its place. And that worked really well until my mid 20s, when I had 3 little ones, a baby and 2 preschoolers. And we went through a series of losses. And the roof leaked and the basement flooded, and there was just one chaos at one crisis after another for several years. And I remember my sister, my next youngest sister, coming to visit me and looking around my home, which had many rooms that were so filled with clutter, I had to have locks on the outside of the door, you know, those little hook locks, to keep my children from going in and hurting themselves. And my sister looked around at my messy, cluttered, somewhat dirty home. And I just saw her thinking, oh my gosh, what has happened? And I remember the greatest act. I had so much judgment on myself when really, in fact, anybody would have been overwhelmed in that total situation. But I remember her going to get a rag and wiping down the top, the very dusty top of the washer and dryer. And in that moment, her compassion for me and her willingness to make just one little area clean so I could fold the diapers and without the dust, it shifted my own perspective. And I was then able to have more compassion for myself. Around that same time, I attended a parenting conference, and there was a class on organizing. And at first I thought, well, I don't need this class. I don't have to organize. And then I realized, actually, maybe I do. And in that class, the class was taught by an engineer. And the class was all about how to use systems to create order. And all of a sudden, a light bulb went on, and I started to think in terms of systems. And that really has made a difference. So I created a system with my time, because clutter never goes away by itself. And so you have to actually have a system in your calendar. And at that point for me, I had 30 to 45 minutes a day when all 3 children were napping, that I could go into the basement and start hauling out that soggy stuff to the trash and, you know, just take care of the things I couldn't have them around me while I was doing. And within months, I think it was 6 to 9 months, I had plowed through those piles of clutter, and I had created systems. So for me, the system was 45 minutes a day. For some of my clients, their calendar system is 3 hours, 3 times a week. But it's, you know, it's something that's doable for them. And then I help my clients think in terms of the systems for the space. Now, if you look behind me, you'll see a bookshelf. And each shelf on that bookshelf is what I call 1 unit of space. And so is each drawer in my file cabinet. Each drawer is 1 unit of space. Each shelf in the closet, each shelf in the kitchen cupboards. And if you can learn to think about that unit of space, and each unit of space, just like each room, is going to have a certain function. And so we're going to take out of that unit of space everything that doesn't support that function. And then when we put items back in, we're not going to fill them any more than 80% full. Now, Christine, you've been in my class, so I'm going to ask you if you remember why we don't fill any unit of space more than 80% full.
I wish I could remember what you say about it. I'm trying to think what bubbles up for me, because y'all, I'm embarrassingly going to admit I've been in her class twice, so I should know the answer to this question. I'm still working on it.
That's perfect.
But I think it is so well, I think when things are completely full that things get stuck, and then we don't have room to play is what we don't have room to play, we don't have room to see it, we don't have I mean, I'm thinking of my garage, which I bring up every time I see you, my friend. So really, I was thinking when you were saying that whole story, I was like, I had an epiphany, which is I've been listening to your work for several years now, and I'm like, oh, okay. I think part of this is rooted in the fact that I love the outdoors more than I like being inside. So I've always been a good steward of the land I'm on and being outside. And I was kind of raised that way because I was raised on a small family farm, right? And being inside was a little bit torturous. So I think I've brought some of that energy in about my partnership with my home. And it's like, oh, I'm being a bad roommate. Like, good God, I gotta up my game. And I was also realizing because I have well, she won't listen. I have an adult child living at home that sometimes I'm like, oh, she's a bad roommate. But I'm like, oh, she's just reflecting what I've taught her. So I gotta check that part, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you always give me hope, my friend. When I listen to you talk, when I hear your systems and your strategies and the incremental steps, I'm like, okay, there's hope. There's hope for us that because we also get it from our families of origin, right?
Exactly.
Like it is coming strong on both sides of my family. They were depression babies, and they are, well, I wouldn't even call them borderline hoarders, depending on which one in the family you look at. But it's real that we bring that stuff in and those energies in.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And I'm sure when I say it, you're going to recognize the term sustainable systems. Yeah. Yeah. And the reason we don't fill any space is exactly what you said, Christine. We don't fill any space more than 80% full because we want the chi to be able to move in and around those items. And we also know a sustainable system grows and evolves as your life does, right? And so as I read a new book and think, okay, I am read or refer to this again, it's got to have a place to live. I can't just immediately start reorganizing everything or putting the books on top of each other. Like I want it to have a place to live. So once a year, now this may seem like a lot to some of you, but once a year, and I think it has helped me that I've moved 30 times, because 30 times in my life, I've looked at every single possession and said, does this serve my future ideal self? And we downsized by half when we moved into this home. Christine has seen it. It's a sweet little tiny home. And
it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous and it's well organized. But that means that all of the ego props that were supporting my old roles that I'm no longer playing had to go back into circulation somewhere else.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because for me, what I notice about home space is I like space. So when I look at your bookshelf, there's space. I like what I see. I haven't learned to do with me. But it's that. And then I'm also, I definitely one of those, what they call organized chaos. Oh Lord. But yesterday it just really, I got clear that I needed to clear my space, and I started to do it. And I felt different. And so applying that 80% rule, that's my next assignment, especially since I'm in that space of moving stuff out. Because I just said, okay, I know. Because sometimes, okay, so let me ask you a question. Let me make it very personal. I told you I got so many of these things, and I can always put something that I cook and put it in the fridge. So there's a part of me that keeps it like I might need it. And then when I throw it away, then I find that, oh man, I could have used that jar. And sometimes some of these plastics and glass jars that we have, they put a lot of detail and attention to it. So sometimes it's like, I can't throw
Sometimes
that
they're
away.
beautiful,
I
like that
know.
Yes.
blue glass.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. It's like, I can't
uh-huh.
throw this away. I want to keep it. I don't know what for, but I want to keep it in the cabinet. And then it just piles. Can you
Mhm.
speak to that?
Yes. Oh, yes, I can. First of all, please, a day, don't put any food in plastic. Just have a rule that food only
Oh
goes in
goodness.
glass containers. The
Mhm.
plastic bleeds chemicals into the food. It doesn't matter whether it's in the microwave or in the fridge. The plastic bleeds into the food. So um,
Oh, hold on a minute. Let me just take a deep breath because that means I'm going to clear my whole food out. And then I'm going to clear my bank account out. Take a deep breath. Ooh, and then I have to go shopping. I don't like shopping. Okay. All right, go ahead. I can hear you now. Go ahead. I'm listening.
ideally, we would not be storing food with plastic. But those beautiful plastic containers you just showed me are the perfect thing for a crafter who's sorting all the yarns or the colors of paints. Or so if you don't have a use for those plastic bins, you put them back into circulation. You
Okay.
donate them to a charity you care about supporting. Um, and and the question, so there's three questions. When you're going through your space to do the releasing process, and right now we're in a 2-week eclipse window, and it's a wonderful time to let go of all of the props that hold up any roles you are no longer playing.
Mm.
So the questions to ask is, do I use this?
I might
If
need it though later.
if
I
you
have that
don't use
voice so strong in my head, Eddie, because I grew up with that voice, right?
Yes, I may
yes.
not need it now, but I could need it next week or the week after.
Or
Okay. So let's answer that question. Let's answer
Hmm.
that question, because if you're not using it, then what I would ask that you do, and there's a few different ways to do this, is that you put that in a place where you are going to come back to it in 6 months or a year and make a decision about
Mm.
keeping it. And so what this looks like when I'm working in my clients' homes, let's say we're in the closet, and I'll give you the 80-20 rule. You've all heard of the 80-20 rule. It's like 20% of the salespeople make 80% of the sales. Well,
Mhm.
that's true with our clothes as well. Usually we only wear on a regular basis 20%. 20% of the clothes in our closet we're wearing 80% of the time.
Mhm.
And so I would ask you to be kind of ruthless when you go through your wardrobe, and anything that doesn't fit into that, I'm wearing this about 80% of the time. If you really love it, keep the item, but turn the hanger the other way. And then in 6 months, put it on your calendar that you're going to do an audit of your closet and edit out the things you haven't worn.
Mm.
Now,
I did that one time,
and
and I was
what
surprised at how many clothes that I actually gave away. I was surprised. I got rid of probably half of my clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
Mm.
let's
didn't miss
talk
them.
about gaining or losing weight, right? Because some people are trying to gain weight, some people are trying to lose weight, and so they keep clothes that are
Mm.
not the size they currently are. And here's what I will tell you. If the clothing is is 2 sizes off from where you are right now, 2 or 3 sizes smaller or larger, I would say let go of the items, because when you have gained or lost the weight of 2 or 3 sizes, you are going to deserve a new wardrobe.
Mm.
You are going to deserve a few new items. So,
Mm.
um, if you have the space and you want to store 4 or 5 sizes larger or smaller, do that. But give yourself a pull by date. Don't just indefinitely hold in a stagnant way items that are not serving their purpose. See, I believe that all of us as humans, and all of us in the human world and in the animal world and in the plant world, want to fulfill the measure of our creation. We want to serve a purpose. And I believe that's also true about everything in our possession. So if we are holding on to bins of clothes that don't fit us, that haven't fit us for years, well, that's accumulating stagnant energy, and those items are not able to fulfill their purpose. Does that make sense?
It does. And you
Yeah.
gave us the first question. Do I use this?
Yes, yes. So if the answer is yes, then it goes into the category of things we're going to organize. The next question is, do I love this? Now, I'm going to keep talking about clothes because it's easy to talk about clothes, but you can extrapolate this. Do I use this? Do I love this? You can extrapolate it to art, furniture. You can extrapolate every possession in your home. The next question, do I love this? Because we may have something that is utilitarian, but every time we look at it, we think, oh, that is such an ugly couch, or that is such. And so my youngest sister was a little bit of a hoarder, especially as it came to her wardrobe. And she didn't want a stuffed full closet, right? She wanted to feel more spacious, not just in the room, but in the morning when she was getting herself together for the day. And I said, Dorothy, you need help. Who can you hire? Who do you know that will give you an honest opinion on these clothes? I want you to try everything on and get an honest opinion about whether or not you really should be wearing this. So she hired her daughter. And she said, oh, Melody, it was so easy because when I came out of the closet wearing something and my daughter said, oh my gosh. I mean, she had dresses in that closet from school. And her daughter was like, you wore that?
Oh my God.
So when, those kind of comments, she said it was very easy. I just went in the donate pile.
Who are you?
Yeah. So the question, sometimes we can fit into an item, and we can wear it, but it's not our color. It doesn't look good on us. So the next thing is, do I love it? Because ideally, remember when I said about the flow of chi, ideally everything in our home raises our mood and energy level, allows the chi to actually get a higher vibration and not a lower one.
Cecile, you were talking about how you've done that where you turn the hangers around and how much you donated. We have charity trucks that regularly schedule pickups at our house, which I love because I don't even have to think about it, right? And it also gives me a deadline. So this morning was one of those. I needed to have something at the curb at 7 a.m. Well, I'm prepping for a conference, right? So I haven't really had time. It hasn't been in my schedule to declutter. And I usually have at least 1 or 2 bags in the garage, really shocking, that are waiting to go to charity. So I ran down there and I was like, oh, I'm out of bags because I haven't scheduled properly. And so I'm running up to my closet this morning and I just immediately went to look at all my hangers that were backwards. And I went down the road and I was like, I haven't worn it. And I got to something. And when I touched it, I was like, I love this. Like I couldn't let it go. And so I was like, okay, that stays for now. And so I got a whole bag, ran it out to the curb before 7 a.m., maybe 7:10, didn't miss the truck. And, but it works. Like if you have a system, because I didn't even have to think, I didn't have to, that decision fatigue. It was like, oh, that's a backwards hanger and it's still hanging there and I haven't touched it. And so let it go. But my body really told me when I touched that one thing, oh, I love this.
Yes.
So that was a good thing to notice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's we're talking about subtle things here. The idea that everything in your wardrobe is something you love, I mean, it's a subtle thing, but it makes a huge difference in
Mhm.
how you show up in the world. And nobody else, I mean, maybe hardly anybody else is going to see the towels and the bed linens in your private bedroom and bathroom. But the color and the quality of those towels and bed linens is going to make a subtle difference over time that will have a cumulative effect on you. My husband grew up in a home where there had been a trauma, and when he was brought home from the hospital, he was in the room where this trauma, which took 10 years to play out, had happened. He was horribly depressed all through childhood. And when we were dating, I asked him to tell me a little bit about the homes he had lived in, because he's also moved a good bit. And he looked at me and he said, I can't tell you anything about the homes I've lived in,
Mm,
but I
mm,
can tell you everything about all the cars I've driven.
mm,
And what we came to learn and realize is that in his early experience in childhood with home had been so uncomfortable and unpleasant
mm,
that he had this kind of a relationship with the space.
mm,
And so when we got married and we started to decorate with the colors we both love and the textures we both love, like, it's really made a subtle and huge difference.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm.
yeah.
Wow.
Being intentional about that instead of just feeling something and not exploring why you feel it, but actually sitting with what's happening in your body and then being intentional about shifting that. Yeah, that would make a big difference in how you live your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as I
Yeah.
listen, it's not just about the things that we're giving away. It's about a mental shift. It's
Mhm.
about our well-being. You call your what you
Exactly.
do environmental
Right.
wellness. It's not
Mhm.
just the environment, this environment, in
Yes.
Right.
relationship with one another, that there's
Mhm.
wellness. Because when I come into my apartment, I do feel hugged. Like I don't have kids, but I feel like little kids are like, Daddy's home. I just
Aw.
love being in here. I love it so much so I don't go out often. But that's a whole different conversation. But yes, it's like being well
Yeah.
Mhm.
completely with the space that we spend our time in. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
environmental wellness affects your mental, emotional
Hmm.
Exactly.
wellness,
Yes.
Exactly.
you know?
So there's one more question. Do you want me to give it to you?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
All right. So this last question refers to items that need repair,
Mm.
whether it's a button that came off a blouse or whether it's a couch that lost a leg. If it needs repair, do I really have the time and money to repair this item? And this is important because a lot of people say to me, oh, well, I could take the time and, we edit the clothes in the closet and there's this big pile of mending or repair work
Mhm.
that needs to happen. Or there's, a lot of artwork that needs to be matted and framed or something. And it's like, do you really have the time and money? And be clear that every item in our possession is costing us both time and money.
Mm.
Mhm.
When you bring it home, maybe you paid for the item, so you paid for it once, but then you're going to either pay with your time or money to clean that item, to keep that item in good repair,
Mhm.
and whatever you're paying for rent or mortgage, a percentage of that is to store the item you
Mm.
brought home. And so when I recognize this, like, it really does, um, I've learned to be more frugal with my time and money, more careful with my time and money. Um, and usually some of us have more money than time. Some of us have more time than money, but both of these are important to your well-being.
Mm.
And this is especially true when I get to the books or the media, right? Do you really have the time to read all these books or these magazines? Are you going to take your precious time that you could be out in the woods or visiting with friends or living your life to do that? And if yes, then you keep it. And if maybe not, yeah. So
Woo.
the time and money piece is a big
Yeah.
deal.
And the
Mhm.
books for making me twitch. Now I don't have a lot of books right now because life made sure. Because I've had books that I moved from UK to America and back, and now then I had another experience where I couldn't bring my books. I don't have a lot of books, but books for me, they're like my children. They're like relatives.
Mhm.
It's like, what you mean? It's like I may not read it. I haven't read it in 10 years, but I remember when I read it 10 years ago, it changed my life. I can't get rid of that.
And let me tell you how to think about those books. For me,
Mhm.
I have a strict rule that if I'm not going to read or refer to it again, even if I just think, oh, there was that one part, let me look at that for a class I'm going to teach, then it either becomes an altar item or it gets donated.
Mm.
Now,
Mm.
do you all know what I mean when I say altar item?
Mhm.
I don't.
An altar is just an item or a group of items that raises your mood, that alters your mood and energy.
Mm.
Okay.
Ooh,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now
I
we
like the
tend to,
sound of that.
yeah, yeah, and we grow up hearing about altars in churches and temples and synagogues, and
Mm,
yes, but every single one of us have
mm,
created what my teacher Denise Lynn calls a subliminal
mm,
altar, where we have
Mhm.
arranged items just so because we like them that way.
mm,
But what I have learned as I've been working with the ancient teachings of feng shui, which it's a technology that's 5,000 years old, comes from the indigenous culture in China, is that there are ways of working with your space that you can use books or photos or paintings or altar items in certain areas of your home to boost up the chi or the life force in that staging, a corresponding staging area of your life. So, do we have time for me to just give one example?
I think I do. I think Christine's got to jump in just a second, but I've got time if you want to give
yeah, I
one
got a few
example.
minutes.
Yeah.
If I
Hmm.
have to go, y'all just keep going. This has been delightful. Actually, I probably
Mm,
will just jump off for my
mm.
next meeting, but I adore y'all. Thank you for your wisdom. And I got some work to do.
Yeah. I
Me
look,
So,
so
too.
do I.
so the one example that I would give is at the center of the home and the center of every room in the home represents health and unity.
Mm.
So, health and unity of body, mind, and spirit, health and unity of everyone living there or working there, and health and unity of how the home sits on the land. And I live on unceded Cherokee land. And one of the things that I have done in my homes and that I recommend to all my clients, find out the ancient keepers of the land you are currently living on.
Mhm.
And in the center of your home, create an altar that honors those wise ones and that reminds you to care well for the land on which you are now living so that you can become more indigenous to that land.
Oh, I love
When you
that.
say center, do you mean when you look at the whole house, the center of the whole house, or the center of each room?
Well, when we're doing primary feng shui, it's the center of the whole house. But if
Okay.
there's a
Mm,
health issue with someone in the house, then we look at the center of each room. That's
okay.
called secondary feng shui. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you
Mm,
for saying that too, because I
mm,
wasn't sure if I was saying that correctly in the, in the intro
Yeah.
feng shui. Okay.
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. You
All
said
right.
it
Well,
right.
Thank you so much. You shared so much information with us with us
Mm,
today. I am definitely gonna go back and like look at my rooms and shift some things. I love the way you presented that. And before we
mm,
go, I want to go over these three questions again. When you're saying when you're going through something, the first question is, do I use this? And then the second question is, do I love this? And then the third question is, do I really have the time and money to repair this item if it's something that you're going to keep, but it's not in optimal condition?
mm,
Exactly. Yes.
mm.
All right.
Yeah,
So
and if
thank you.
people are interested in just doing more of this, I
Excuse
teach
me.
a class between January and April.
Hmm.
It will be called Shine On 2023, Creating Sparkle and Sanctuary at Home. And
Oh, I
all
love
Mm,
that
people
too.
will have to do is go to my website,
Which is
Transforming
in our description.
Space, transformingspace.com, and just sign up for my list and you'll find out all about it.
mm,
All
mm,
right. You said transformingspace.com. I'm going to put that as a thing, but it's also in the show description. If
mhm,
you're looking watching while you're driving or doing something else, if you look in the description, the link is there. It should be at the top.
mm.
And thank you so much for today.
Yes.
Like I said, when I read your chapter in the book, I was like, "Oh yeah, I definitely want to talk to Melody." And so I've been following
Oh,
you since
well,
I read your
thank you.
chapter and have just loved everything that you put out. And I like the way you make it accessible. It's not like it's a mystery. It's very
Mm,
doable. Anybody can actually do this stuff and transform your space and have a relationship with the space that you live in and the space that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cecile. Thank you, Ade. It's been
you're
wonderful to
welcome.
talk with you today.
Yes. Thank you for being here.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a day, do you have anything coming up that you want to mention before we go?
I do. I'm working on it. I just got guidance. I'm going to be doing my grief ritual.
Very good.
What?
I don't
Oh,
What?
nothing. I was looking at Melody's face.
Oh,
That's
oh, because
amazing.
like, you know your thoughts aloud,
Sorry. I was responding to Melody's face.
Tell us
Because we're
more about
connected.
that.
Yes, it's a grief ritual called representing our ancestors, representing our stories. So we use grief work to bring people to a place where they connect with themselves and ancestors and telling a different story about their life and stuff that things that we're keeping inside of us that we don't have a use for. But we keep saying, well, maybe, but my ancestors used it. So just be able to bring that, using your analogy, really is what I'm doing there, to just get that out and really have a different relationship with ourselves and what we create as we move forward. That's November 19th. I just got guidance yesterday, so I'm working on a graphic and it's going to be on my website
All right.
before the
And
end
your
of this
website
week.
is in the description if people are looking for more information.
Lifecoachade.com.
Yep. All right, and I will just let y'all know I just did how to talk to your racist friends and family a couple weeks ago, and it was a success. I am going to run that again. It's going to be November 15th through the 22nd, and basically taking those 4 steps that I use in my community about making equity a habit and breaking it down for how to have those hard conversations about oppression and how to talk to people who have different ideas than you do and who don't necessarily believe that racism and sexism and transphobia are an issue. And, this is good right now because if you take this class, then when you go to have your Thanksgiving dinner with your family, instead of sitting there and fuming and deciding not to say anything or having this argument over Thanksgiving dinner, you will have the tools to actually have a decent conversation. And, the part that I actually love about this workshop, it made it so much easier for me, is that we have a kickoff with the Zoom class, and so we spend an hour getting in the right frame of mind, figuring out what you want out of the class, and then for the next 6 days, you receive an audio lesson that's like 20 minutes or less, and then you have a workbook so that you take what I'm telling you and you make it specific to you. So by the time you finish the class, you actually have an outline for how to have the conversation. And it starts with self care and getting in your body. It starts with knowing the facts that you actually want to talk about. And then you undo the work and you have the conversation. And I talk about how to make sure that this conversation is going to go as well as possible. And then you relax, and rejoice. You give yourself credit for actually making the effort and figure out what went well so that the next time you do it, it can be even better. And so, if you go to my website, which is in the description, it's in the description, then you will find the link
I
to
need
how to
that
talk
link.
to your racist friends and family.
I need that link for my racial equity group. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I will email it to you too.
Awesome. Thank you. That sounds
All
amazing.
right.
Thank you, Melody.
Oh, hold
Thank you.
on.
Thank you.
Somebody says
Oh,
this
what?
was so helpful. Thanks, Mom. That's my mama. Thanks, Mom. All
Yeah.
right, you guys. Thank you so much for showing up, Melody. So glad to have you back a day. And as always, I'm sending you off fierce love, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Peace and blessings. Bye
Bye.
bye.